Hello, I'm Dr. Charles Lee. I'm the cello instructor at MSU Denver. I'm also the principal cellist of Boulder Philharmonic. In this video, we're going to talk about how to prepare an orchestral excerpt for an audition or recording session. Specifically, we're talking about the Tristan and Isolde excerpt by Richard Wagner. Don't wait too long to launch this project. There are many parallels between me making this video and you preparing your tape for your all-state audition. I am doing this in middle of September. I know the all-state tapes are not due until middle of November. I'm doing this nice and early so that I have many chances to make some mistakes and possibly correct them, and also to give you chances to practice and have ample time to gain expertise. Don't make your recording session the very first time when you're doing something like that. I've in fact practiced making a recording like this by using my phone at home to practice making a recording. So by the time I'm here on this beautiful stage to make a recording regarding this orchestral excerpt preparation, I have done something like this before, and that'll give you an advantage. Also, you should know something about Richard Wagner and this piece, Tristan and Isolde. First of all, his name is not Richard Wagner, it's Richard Wagner. He's a German composer. He wrote a lot of operas, very dramatic, epic in scope, fantastic stories, lots of singers, big powerful sound. He's a very noted dramatic person. He belongs to the romantic tradition. Knowing these kind of things will help you interpret his music properly. You should also know what this excerpt sounds like in context. I happen to know that because I've played it before with Boulder Philharmonic and other orchestras. If you don't know how this excerpt fits into the overall piece, you should find some footages of orchestras performing Tristan and Isolde. It is the prelude. I know your music that's provided by a Colorado All-State Orchestra doesn't say that, but it's the prelude of Tristan and Isolde. Most orchestras' interpretation will place this excerpt about 2 minutes into the piece from the beginning. Of course, orchestras vary in tempo and interpretation, so it might be as early as 1 minute and 45 seconds, maybe as late as 2 minutes and 10 seconds. But find this excerpt and listen to it many times in context so you know what it sounds like, what the harmonies are, and what other parts of the orchestra are doing when you play this piece. These things will give you a level of expertise that will be audible when someone hears your tape. You can begin this excerpt either by down or up bow. I'll explain a little bit of what the advantages and disadvantages are. If you start at down bow, you can cross string to the stronger part of your bow and have an easier time rolling your bow over to the higher string on a down bow, because this, going to a down bow to the higher string, is a smaller gesture. Then if you start up bow, you'll end up at the tip of the bow and you'll have to make a bigger gesture to go over to the top string. But starting up bow also has some advantages, because you can make a natural phrase that grows to the destination like this. And you can make a softer transfer to the top string. I'll demonstrate that again, this time in down bow. Regardless, you should know that this is a constantly growing melody, and it grows all the way to that magnificent note that you shift to. If you start up bow, you'll of course end up doing 3 separate bows. But they are so far apart, shifts in between each of them, I think you can make them not so different sounding, whether you slur the first 2 notes or not. Regardless, get to the B flat with drama and vibrato and power. After reaching that destination, you'll see that we subside from there. Then Wagner marks it piano. Gentle, but he grows from this C sharp to C natural. Quick diminuendo, and then growth again. And from this point on, he's on a constant growth, all the way to this long note. That long note is actually even longer than the 5 eighth note beats that is indicated in the music, because it'll say poco a poco ritenuto or ritenuto or something like that. He slows this note down, and if you listen to the other string parts, as I recommend that you do, you'll know that the other string sections in the orchestra are busy playing a melody here, and we're obliged as cellists to wait for them, and they might take some time. So be prepared to hold this for a very long time. It grows for the first 3 beats, and then quickly diminuendos at the end. So how to do a very long note with power without running out of bow length. If you simply press on it, you might get a result like that. So obviously that's not what you want. If you spend the bow to get the crescendo, then you don't get enough length, because the cello bow doesn't get any longer. What I recommend is that you change location on your string cleverly. I am trying to carve down toward the bridge, because the areas near the bridge, they are not as soft and they offer more resistance. They change color a little bit, and I'm using that to depict a crescendo. So in a way, my crescendo is a combination of tonal change in color towards something more brazen and hard, as well as literally getting louder in volume. So if you practice something like this with vibrato accompanying your crescendo and the length, you'll see that at some point it might crunch, and if you go too slowly, you get stuck. You need to experiment. That was better. Let me put it in context. After that, you have to pick out that C sharp, almost out of nowhere. One of the challenges of reaching a note that's so far from the note that you just had is that it's hard to hear it sometimes. If you have trouble hearing this C sharp, I recommend that you play the octave lower C sharp. C sharp. From there, you have a better chance to pick out that C sharp. At this point, I want to talk about these two large leaps that are, without a doubt, one of the difficult places that makes this excerpt challenging. Regarding the first big shift, which was from a C natural to a B flat. You'll have a better chance of hitting this note if you know two things very specifically. One thing I know specifically is what kind of shape I am to reach that B flat. If this B flat makes me a certain handspan and a certain elbow height and a certain posture. I think this is a more reliable way to find the note that is far away from your previous position than trying to scrutinize location on the string. Meaning, once I have this B flat, I regard this shape of mine, even if I take the cello away, this shape of mine, including the span of my hand and the level of my elbow, I regard that as B flat. So know where you're going in terms of your own shape. Next thing has to do with the bow. I think whether you slur these two notes or do it separate, you end up changing bow to a down bow as you try to reach this B flat. I'm using a very specific type of shift called a new bow shift. This is called so because from the previous note, which is an up bow, I am changing to a down bow upon departure. So let me reiterate that. I am changing to a down bow upon departure, not upon arrival. If I did the reverse, I would end up going and end up changing upon arrival. That is not what you should do here. This romantic soaring melodies, I think, work better with a new bow shift. So practice. What shape do I want? When do I change bow? If you specify these two things, you'll have a better chance at getting that note. Now back to the C sharp. The C sharp that we have to reach from this E. Once again, I know what shape I'm in. For my hand size, this almost is the highest note I can reach with my thumb back here. And that causes my elbow to be at a certain level. And I can replicate this similarly each time I practice it. This one seemingly is not such a shift as much as concluding of that E and restarting from a different note. And you should think that way. I do not think of this as a shift to a C sharp. I think of this as start again from that note. And if you do that in the same manner over and over again, your body will take that information and be able to repeat it for you. After that C sharp, he has similar passage that grows to the high note, after which he subsides, and then he grows again. This one grows beyond its own length. That C is the peak of the loud passage. Then it diminuendos to this A. Then it grows again. And then this time it's a C sharp, from which you do another diminuendo all the way to the excerpt's end. Let me attempt to talk you through this while playing it. I'm going to start down bow. I know it's growing. It continues to grow all the way to this long note. Then it continues. Lots of power. New bow shift. Diminuendo. An area of softness. The C sharp grows into the C natural, quick diminuendo, and then a crescendo again. And now this note and this note starts a long crescendo, then a rapid diminuendo, new note. And sing through these. Keep growing. More growth. This one goes beyond. This is the climax of that phrase. Noticeable diminuendo, and then growth again. Finally, subsiding all the way to the end. Mind you, the markings by Wagner, which is specific, but once again, if you watched various orchestras and their cello sections play this, you know that there are some differences between one group to the next. And one conductor might demand one thing, while another conductor might demand something more out of some other place. Ultimately, it is up to you to decide on a version, your own interpretation, if you will. And when you are preparing these excerpts, it is important to make up your mind and stick to it over and over again in exactly the same fingerings, same bowings, in the same manner of organizing your shifts and your vibratos and your crescendos and your diminuendos. And while repeating that, and I said the word repeat, which means practice, your body will get used to doing this at a very specific manner. And once you're in your recording studio or at your live audition, when you're under pressure, more pressure than what you would experience during your practice, your body will do what it is most familiar with. And if that version is something specific and beautiful, you'd have a great chance to do well. Thank you for watching the video.